Hey everyone, I want to tell you a story really about an herb called mullein. I have it growing on my property because it is actually considered to be a common invasive weed in my area of Virginia. It's actually all over the world. They have mullein everywhere. There's a few different varieties out there. So if you learn its plant identification and go out searching for it, I promise you will find it. Loves to grow in disturbed soil and roadsides and places where, they've dug up the ground to build a building, and that mound of dirt they dig up, it just starts growing out of there. Definitely do not recommend going and harvesting it anywhere that's against the foundation of a building that may have been sprayed with toxins, or on a roadside or railroad track, anything like that. Basic herbal gathering 101. Don't go to toxic places to gather your natural medicine. So that kind of goes without saying. But I want to just give you my personal journey with mullein, because it was really, I think we all have a gateway herb. For me, in essential oils, it was wintergreen. Specifically, it was Panaway by Young Living, because I was dealing with some debilitating pain in my spine. And anyways, I just needed relief from that. And ultimately, I needed healing, and the oils were able to provide that for me. With the case of mullein, I use all kinds of essential oils for coughs. Young Living has a really great line. I mean, they've got all kinds of immunity oils. Obviously we've got thieves. I love RC, respiratory congestion. I love Raven. I love Raven Sarah. I love a lot of their oils, and I use them. Don't get me wrong. But there's something magical about mullein. And so this was the herb that like kind of brought me over to the dark side, away from essential oils and into herbal medicine, because it profoundly works. It swiftly impacts your respiratory system. And especially when, the stuff goes around in the winter and you're just coughing and coughing and coughing up a lung. And especially those really like dry, almost asthmatic, spasmy coughs that just keep coming, and you just can't seem to stop them, even though they're not productive and you're not coughing anything up, you're not getting anything out, although it really works well for those too. Just the spasm type of things that happen in your chest that just get uncontrollable. I have found mullein to be unbelievable and swift at just stopping that, so you can just get some relief, get a deep breath of air, and like move on with your life. Now, I will tell you, just like essential oils, this is a natural product, so your body's going to metabolize it very quickly. So it's not like some of these pharmaceuticals where you take a pill every 12 hours, and in fact, it's very dangerous to take more. What you will notice is when you take an herbal product, your body's going to metabolize that anywhere from 4 to 6 hours, sometimes less, and you're going to need to take it again and again. That's okay, especially in the case of mullein. I'm a huge advocate for take it as needed. And I know there's a term in the medical industry for that. I don't know, POA, that might not be it. Take it as needed. When the symptoms start to surface again, just go and take another round. So here's my quick story on mullein with regards to what felt almost like a near miraculous use of mullein with my husband. Part of the reason I wasn't on here making videos for a couple of years is we had a very crazy, catastrophic year in 2023. And in a series of 1 week, not only did I lose my mom tragically to cancer, we found out very late in the game that she was dealing with. And that's a whole story that I may or may not have told on my podcast. My husband, in the same week, he's a fighter pilot, and he had to eject from his aircraft. The problem was his aircraft was not in the air. It was actually on the ground going at very high rates down the runway. So when he pulled the ejection handle, for not going into the story, it saved his life. It shot him out of the aircraft, but his parachute did not deploy in time for him to come crashing down over 100 feet out of the sky, landing flat on his back. Broke, I don't know, not half, but we'll just say half his body, lots of broken spine, broken neck, broken ribs, lots of things, broken hip. He was delivered home on a stretcher to our house. We had to convert everything into a hospital. We live on one floor, thank goodness. He was in a wheelchair for quite a long time. And so we went through all of that. Now, those are the details to kind of lead the picture up to, there was a lot of trauma happening on his end, on my end, emotional, physical, all the things. At the time, we brought in my husband's mother because she is an ICU nurse and has been for many, many years. And in wake of this horrific accident and all of these injuries that my husband sustained, we thought it would be wise to have somebody in-house, as we didn't know how bad he would be. She got on a plane and came out here pretty much right away. And she was very instrumental in orchestrating the movement of him out of the trauma bay of the hospital and back to our home. We had to fly him here by air ambulance. It was a whole thing. So she was here overseeing, the routine of medication and, just all kinds of other little nuanced things that when you have a patient in that kind of critical condition, she knew how to tend to, which was a huge blessing to me because I was just like grief stricken because I had just lost my mom 2 days before my husband came home. I was saying goodbye to my mom, who I love. And that was really hard. So as much as I was ministering to my husband, I was just in a blur of emotion and overwhelm. So it was wonderful to have somebody here who could make sure that the medication was delivered in a timely fashion and all these other things. Well, because of the nature of his injuries, he was flat on his back in a hospital bed, which was in our living room. And when patients spend a large degree of time, unable to sit up because he couldn't sit up for weeks and weeks and weeks, it can become very dangerous because their lungs can fill with fluid and they start to develop a pneumonia type cough. And so that's a major concern for people with those kinds of injuries. They try to move them, but they could only put him up on a wedge that was like this high, and that doesn't really get you very far when really you're designed to be upright and everything drains and your body systems function and all that. So he started developing a cough and he's wearing a neck brace and he's in a back brace. He's like essentially in a full body cast and he starts coughing and we're like, oh no, it's starting. We can't. And so my mother-in-law was very concerned. She wanted to call an ambulance, put him in it. We had to drive an hour and a half down the road to go to Charlottesville, University of Virginia Medicine, to get x-rays, to check on his lungs, to get the medication and so on and so forth. And I'm sitting here going, oh my gosh, what a movement this is. The man has barely been home for, a week or two. He's nowhere near the recovery that he needs to be. Just the execution of getting him out of the house into any kind of vehicle that could carry him and the amount of money we'd have to pay and just the pain involved with all of that and a literal physical pain to him and just the degree of complexity to get him seen was just beyond anything I could even imagine handling at that point. I would have done it. Was it necessary? And here is where we diverge worldviews from the allopathic medicine and herbal medicine. And my husband, fortunately, has seen me rave on and on about Mullein. He's used Mullein in the past, thank goodness, because he doesn't tend to be on the natural medicine side of the house. He doesn't really take any medicine ever, mine or anybody else's. But he had used Mullein for coughs and he knew the benefits of it. So while his mother was saying, we need to call an ambulance, we need to get x-rays, and she was very urgently pounding the drum on that, I was like, hold on a second, let's try Mullein. To which she understandably was very skeptical. She was very concerned for her son and had never heard of it, knew nothing about it, doesn't know. She's the nurse and she's in the Western world and, they know all the things because they've treated all the things. And this was just an opaque world to her. She didn't know anything about it and it frightened her. But my husband did speak up and he said, you know what, Mom, I want to try the Mullein first. And I will tell you what, we dosed him 3 times and that cough completely dried up and it never came back again. And he was flat on his back for a few more weeks before we were able to get him up and get him in the wheelchair, for any length of time. He spent a lot of time laying down. So I was absolutely blown away by the power of one little weedy herb in my garden to handle what could have potentially been a very complicated road going forward. And so I'm extremely grateful that God created plants for our health and our well-being, and learning how to use them is not foolishness. It might be considered the foolishness of man, but it is wisdom. And to have that sitting on my shelf, I couldn't have had whatever pharmaceuticals would be required to deal with. I don't know what they would have prescribed him. I'm not in that world. I don't know the labels of things, but I do know I didn't have it on my shelf. And I did know that the only way to get it on my shelf was to go through this excruciatingly terrible process of getting him to a doctor and waiting in the lines and the transportation in and out and back and forth. And oh my goodness, just to get the prescription, to get the medication. But I had Mullein. I had it on my shelf. And the good news is, because it's alcohol extraction, I could have it on my shelf for 10 years. And I do. I have an apothecary at home, so I highly encourage each and every one of you to go out and learn herbs and start an apothecary. You don't have to buy them all at once. Learn them one at a time. Go get some herbal teas. Go get a couple of tinctures. Look up some herbal, remedies for the cough and cold, flu season, and get those on your shelf and learn to use them and understand their properties and what do they taste like and how and when do you use them and how do they work in your body. And by that I mean, like, how do they make you feel? How do you respond to them? And it can be an academic study, but it really is a trial and error study, and you will be astounded, as I was, at the power that these plants have for our healing, because God made them that way, and it's amazing. So anyways, that's my Mullein story. Talk to you later.